morning. Kristin Eppele from way up in British Columbia. Where exactly are you?
Squamish, British Columbia. So just about an hour north of Vancouver.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you a Canucks fan?
You know what? I am originally from Toronto, so I'm
you're a Maple Leafs. Okay. My bad. I'm sorry.
I know. I grew up a Maple Leaf fan, and when I moved out here, my dad was like, "You better not become a traitor." I'm like, "No, it's okay." I used to watch hockey religiously with my dad. We used to have seasons tickets and stuff too, so we used to go all the time. And yeah, I grew up watching hockey, so I love hockey. I would go to a game anytime for sure. We've actually, my husband and I have been to a Canucks game. It's pretty awesome. Yeah,
it's my favorite out of all sports. Because I grew up in upstate New York, so hockey was, we always had a minor league team. I interviewed, speaking of the Maple Leafs, I trained her a long time ago. She played for the U.S. women's national team. They lost to Canada in 2014 Olympics series, but she grew up with Austin Matthews.
Wow.
She's from Arizona. Yeah. And her brother played with him. And anyways, yeah. And she's like, when they found it, it's like, really? Austin Matthews is going to be the number one draft pick? And they were so shocked to find out, because this little kid, she said, when I saw him, I knew him, he was tiny. And now he's like,
yeah.
stud in the NHL, scores 4 goals in his very first game.
Oh my God. He's pretty epic. He's pretty cool. He seems he's a great hockey player.
And you're an ice skater too. So did you play hockey at all?
I did not play hockey, but I did figure skate for a really long time. About 10 years of my life. I did pretty much 6 days a week, morning and night practices and shows and all that kind of stuff. So I was pretty big into figure skating. My dad, growing up, I did a lot of sports. I did pretty much everything you can think of. I did rugby pretty competitively as well. Rugby's probably my favorite sport actually to play myself. But and then what else did I do? Football, women's football, just everything. Volleyball. Grew up playing a lot of sports. So my dad had 3 girls, so hockey wasn't really our sport, but we played enough other sports that he was happy to come and watch and do all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
I know a lot of players now are using figure skating coaches as to learn how to skate. It's funny, these guys, and they're actually taking lessons during the off season to learn how to skate from figure skaters. It's pretty funny to learn that. It's hey, maybe you got a little future side gig going on here.
Yeah, imagine. Oh my gosh. Well, even as figure skaters, we used to take dance lessons and all that kind of stuff, because it's all kind of intermingled, right? When you're on the ice, you use so many different other things to to just better you in that sport. So
when you played rugby, did you ever get a concussion? You ever experience any concussion?
Good question. I didn't. I feel like I didn't. I don't know. I feel like there was one questionable time for sure, but I definitely know a lot of girls who did. My sister had a really big head injury one time. She collided with a girl, and from then on, she has a huge Harry Potter scar across her face now, and it's ironic because she's obsessed with Harry Potter, so she loves it. Oh. But from that moment on, my dad made us wear scrum caps. But I was a back and my sister was a forward. So normally forwards wear scrum caps. Backs don't usually wear scrum caps because they're not really headbutting as much and stuff like that. But I was the one person, the runner in the back wearing a scrum cap. But yeah, just for extra protection. But I don't think I've had a concussion. No, I know a lot.
So you've been fit pretty much all your life. So I'm guessing now. So I read 2011 you were diagnosed with celiac disease.
Yep, 2011 I was diagnosed with celiac disease, and for years before that, ever since I was super young, I have had digestive issues and allergies. My parents said from the time I was pretty much born, I've had crazy stomach issues, and they could never figure it out. They went to multiple doctors. I wasn't sleeping for 2 years. My parents said the first 2 years of my life I didn't sleep. One night I cried every single night before I went to bed. And finally they met this one doctor, and he said, put her on goat's milk, because goat's milk is easier to digest than cow's milk. So the first night they put me on goat's milk, they gave me goat's milk before I went to bed. And they said I slept for 12 hours, and they just cried with joy. Oh my God, we finally figured it out. But yeah, I had milk intolerance. So that's why I wasn't sleeping for the longest time. And then they figured that out. So then ever since then, like throughout my childhood, I felt like, I was okay, but I was a super picky eater back then. I would only eat certain things. And then as I got older, I started getting really sick, and I was super fit. Like I was in the best shape of my life. I was like doing CrossFit, eating super healthy. I was running like 10K every single day. And then I started getting some heart issues, and not like crazy heart issues, but I would get extremely tired. And all of a sudden, like I could feel my heart slowing down, and I'm like, whoa, like I could just pass out right now. Like I am so exhausted. And I was like, you should get that checked out. So I went to, I used to live right around the corner from my doctor's office. So I would walk, every time I had an appointment, I would walk there. It would take me like 5 to 10 minutes to walk there. And I got to my appointment, they were doing like an EKG on me. And they hooked me up, and I was like, oh, it's coming on right now. I actually feel it coming on. And they're like, perfect. So they start up the machine, they put me through it. And the technician was sitting there, and she's like, I'm just going to run that one more time. I'm like, okay. So I'm lying there. She's like, I'm just going to do it one more time. I'm like, okay. Now she's starting to freak me out, right? Because I'm like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, it doesn't take that long to do an EKG.
Yeah, like one time she's like, I had to redo it again or again. So she did it 3 times. And then she's like, okay, Kristin, I'm just going to sit you up. She grabs my arm, and she just like escorts me up to my doctor's office, like 2 people holding me arm by arm in the elevator. And I'm looking at them like, can you please tell me what is happening right now? This is insane. And I go up to my doctor, and she's like, Kristin, your resting heart rate is 32 beats per minute. She's like, how did you get here? And I said, I walked here. She's like, you walked here and then got your test? I said, yeah. And that was my resting heart rate, just like sitting there, 32. She's like, are you like an extreme, sports person? Are you extreme, like, crazy, like marathon Ironman?
That's what I was thinking.
Have that kind of like resting heart rate. And I'm like, no, I run, but like, I'm like not crazy by any means. And she's like, this is crazy. So they wanted to put a pacemaker in me. And I went to the cardiologist, and she was like, I was 23 or something at the time, or 25 maybe. She's like, honestly, you are too young. She's like, these things don't last a lifetime. She's like, you're going to have to get them replaced every like 10 to 15 years. She's like, you're just too young. And like, I don't want to do it right now. Like, let's just wait on it. So I'm like, okay. And then it didn't really get better, but, I went to a holistic nutritionist, or a naturopathic doctor, because my mom was just trying to figure out like, what's going on with you? I want to send you to this doctor. And this naturopathic doctor was like, well, like, what are you eating every day? Like, oh, well, I wake up and I have like a spinach and egg omelet. Like, and then I would eat the same thing every single day. I was so regimented. I didn't care if it was the same. I was just like, this is what's healthy in my mind, and this is what I'm going to eat. So I'd eat like spinach and egg omelet in the morning. And then like chicken breast with salad and blah, blah. And she's like, okay, well, like, what are you putting on your eggs? Are you putting like salt, pepper? I was like, oh, no, I don't eat salt. She's like, what do you mean you don't eat salt? Like, I do not put salt on anything. She's like, well, Kristin, she's like, you're not getting enough salt. That's why your blood pressure is so extremely low. Like, your body needs salt. And I was like, no, I was like petrified. I was like, what are you talking about? I'm like, no, I can't eat salt. Salt is bad for you. And that is when I started like switching my brain and thinking like, okay, like these things that I think are unhealthy, like fat. I used to cut the fat off of everything I ate too. Fat, salt, all that stuff that now I'm starting to realize, like, or that I'm starting to learn, are actually extremely important for your body. Actually like needs those things to function. So that's when my brain started like turning and thinking like, okay, like I think I'm healthy. Like, I'm super fit and I was in the best shape of my life, like running and doing CrossFit and all that kind of stuff, sports. But, there has to be something else, because I still don't feel 100%. And my gut and like my stomach still had issues despite me, working out and eating healthy and all that kind of stuff. So I thought, okay, there's got to be something out, like part of this equation that I'm missing, because I feel like I'm doing everything right, but it just wasn't working out.
So were you a hunter before, or did you realize, because you ate healthy, So I'm guessing the meats and everything, and you trimmed all the fat. You know, I was the same.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite of you. Excuse me,
Yeah.
I have tachycardia. So they
Mhm.
wanted to do, I actually had surgery. They did through my heart, cryoablation, all that stuff, and didn't
Yeah.
take, they wanted to put a pacemaker in me too.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, because for the same
No,
reasons. Yeah.
no. Yeah.
I don't want a pacemaker. I'm in otherwise good shape and I'm not going to, anyways. So yeah. And in assault, I'm almost identical. So
Yeah.
but were you always, when did you start hunting? Was it before or after, or had you
So
always been hunting?
yeah, I'm definitely an adult onset hunter. So I
Okay.
started hunting when I met well, he was my boyfriend at the time, but my husband now. He's been a hunter his whole life. He grew up here in Squamish, BC, hunting since he was 4 years old, kind of thing, with his dad. And we met back in Ontario. He used to play for the Toronto Argonauts, so he was living in Toronto at the
Okay.
time. And then yeah, we met, and I was like, he's like, oh yeah, I'm a hunter. And I, like, the first time we met, like, I actually went over to, not the first time, maybe like the second time we hung out or something, I went over to his house. He just came back from a hunting trip, and he literally had like a deer carcass like all over his kitchen table, just like butchering it up. And I'm just in there like, what is going on? This is crazy. And I'm like picking up the heart. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm actually a dental hygienist, like full time. That's what I do during the week. So I'm, really big into like science and anatomy and all that kind of stuff. So I was like picking up the heart, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like to actually like physically like all these things that you learn about. So I'm like picking up the heart, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what do you do with this? And I'm like, oh, are you just gonna like throw this out? And he's like, what? Throw out the heart? Like, no, that's the best part. And I was like, oh my, no, what are you talking about? And he's like, I'm going to cook you the heart tonight. So that was like the first like wild game that I had ever had. And this was about 4 years ago now, that I had my first like wild game meal, and it was deer heart, like venison heart. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like nothing I've ever had before. But before that, yeah, I was just eating like conventional red meat from the grocery store growing up. Like we had like, chicken, veal, beef, like all that. We ate pretty much everything, but I was the kind of kid growing up who used to like, if I opened my chicken breast and I saw like a little vein, I would like freak out and cut it out and like, that kind of thing. And now I feel like my respect like for animals is completely different, and like the way that I eat my meat is completely different. Like we used to cook our meat like through, my parents still do, bless their souls, but they like burn their meat. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm like a rare to medium rare kind of person now. But like my parents are like, what happened to you? Like, who are you? This is not who you were, like, growing up and stuff. So they're like kind of impressed with how far I've come, and what I'm doing now and stuff too. They're kind of shocked. But yeah, that's kind of like where my hunting journey began. I would say is like about 4 years ago when I first had that deer heart, and then I started going out with him. So he's like, oh, I'm going duck hunting, or I'm going goose hunting, and I'm like, oh, I want to come. So I would put on his camo, and he's like 6'8", 300, almost 300 pound guy, and I'm like wearing his camo out in the field, like this is so much fun. And I'm like, I think this is something that I could do. He's like, do you think you could like take an animal's life? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know, but I know that I will eat the meat. That was one thing. I was like, okay, I don't want to hunt if I'm not going to like actually eat the meat. So it's like, hey, well, let me try the meat. Like, let me eat more of it and like see. And that's how I kind of got into it. I was like, okay, yeah, this is something that I could definitely get into. And then just learning all the health benefits from eating wild game too. Like you just can't beat it. So I said, for health reasons too, like if this is like something I want to do, like I'm going to go for it.
That's cool. I just like that you weren't weird. Oh my, because I've been around some where they'll be like, be around a girl and they're like, ooh, and instead you're like, let me see that heart and let me touch it. So that's cool that you were actually curious about it and then got involved. What was it like taking your first animal? How did you feel about that?
It was a lot of mixed emotions for sure. We were out the whole day and we were hiking up and down this like horrible mountain, and I was exhausted. And, my husband was like really wanting me to get a deer. And he was like, okay, come on, let's go. And like, pushing me. He's really good at that. He pushes me sometimes to my breaking point, but out when we're out there, I know like he means well. And so he was pushing me pretty hard, which is fine. But I was getting exhausted, and I'm like, oh my God, can I really do this? And we had actually gotten in front of a few deer a few times. And I think in that moment, like I held back, and I was like, in my head, I think I got in my own head. I was like, I don't know if I can do this. So I made some excuses like, oh, like there was another deer behind it and I just didn't feel comfortable shooting. I was like saying all these things, and he's like, and then we saw this exact deer 2 more times after that. And the last time we saw this deer, he's like, Kristin, this never happens. He's like, you never get in front of the same deer 3 times in one day. He's like, this deer wants you to shoot it. You need to shoot this deer. I'm like, okay, I got to do it. So the next time we had eyes on it, I set up against a tree and I took a breath and let it go. And I pulled the trigger. And then immediately after I pulled the trigger, I just looked at him because he was watching the deer. I looked at him and I go, oh my God, my first reaction was like, I wanted it to die instantly. I did not want it to suffer. And I just looked at him and I go, is it dead? And he's like, Kristin, it was like done the moment you hit it. It was like a perfect heart. I literally shot just the heart right off. Like it was just severed completely, like at the aorta at the top, like perfect heart shot. And I was just like, and then I just started shaking, and he's videotaping me and I'm shaking and I'm like, I can't catch my breath. I'm like totally winded. I'm like, I can't believe this just happened. And we walked up to it. And then I started like calming down a little bit, walked up to it, put my hand on it. And I just was like, wow. Like the first thing I thought was like, what a beautiful animal. Like, I can't believe this. This is crazy. And then I sat down beside it, and he like, yeah, it was an unreal experience. I was sad, and then I was happy, and then I was like so grateful. And then the work began. And then that was even like the better part for me, because I said to Joe, like, because Joe's like, okay, like I'm going to gut it and I'm going to do this. And I'm like, no. Like, I want to make the first cut, like, show me where to cut, show me how to do it. Like, if I'm going to shoot the animal, like, I want to be a part of the whole process. Like, I don't want to just shoot it and let you guys take care of it and whatever. Like, I want to butcher it. Like, I want to learn. So he showed me how to do it, and I started gutting it. He kind of came in and helped me and showed me like, where the trachea was and all that kind of cool stuff too. And then, yeah, we brought it back to camp, and it was a weekend where Joe and all of his buddies, like, they bring all their wives up, and we have like a girls hunting weekend to try and get the girls their deer, because the guys go away like so often. And then, yeah, so all the girls got a deer that weekend. It was just like a great experience, like going back to camp, and like everyone's so excited for you, and everyone's like, there, and you're taking the animal apart. And it's just like, yeah, the whole experience from start to finish was just amazing. And I was hooked from then on. I was like, yep, this is something I definitely want to do.
It's very cool that you're also, you're hands-on. You want to be fully involved, and just besides taking the animal, the whole butchering. So you do all the hands-on butchering as well. And so have you incorporated the gathering part? Because I noticed you're a big mushroom picker, and turkey tail. I've never heard of a turkey tail mushroom.
Tails. Yeah, turkey tails are awesome. So in the past couple of years, I've been looking more into like holistic nutrition. And I started actually just before COVID, in like September of last year, I started holistic nutrition school, and just, to better my health. And, I thought, okay, like, I'm into this hunting and foraging and like mushroom picking and stuff like that. And the holistic lifestyle is kind of like, on kind of point on like where I want my life to go and like how I want to live my life. And so I decided as kind of like a side career, I wanted to be a holistic nutritionist and like help other people who were like suffering like I was. and learn how to basically heal themselves in a more holistic way, not so much, more like conventional medicine type of way, because it can be done. And I'm living proof of that. So I'm super grateful for that part of my journey as well. And so in the whole like holistic kind of world, like mushrooms and mushroom healing is like a really big thing. And before even going to school, my husband kind of got me into the mushrooming. Him and his family grew up mushrooming. In BC, there's like a whole crazy species of mushrooms, like edible mushrooms that are very beneficial for like so many aspects of health. And they're so accessible. They're like in your backyard sometimes. So that was also kind of like a no-brainer. So when we're out hunting, Joe's like, oh my gosh, there's like, this is this lion's mane mushroom. And it was like literally this big, as the size of my, 10 times in my head. And I'm like, what's lion's mane mushroom? And then I like Googled it after, and apparently it's like one of the most sought after mushrooms. And we're just out hunting, like, walking around and found this like amazing mushroom, and we chop it up and we freeze them, we package them. And so every time we're out hunting, or just, on a nice day, or even a rainy days are the best days to go mushrooming, because that's when they start popping. But yeah, just learning about different types of mushrooms and their health benefits and stuff like that too, I've been really into. Yeah, the turkey tail mushrooms are, they're awesome too. Yeah, I did a little post about those. I think you saw. But yeah, they got a lot of
tea.
Turkey tail tea.
Yeah. So how do you know, like, when I see mushrooms, I see them, get the ones that grow out of the ground, they all look alike, the ones on the trees. And how do you know which ones are edible as opposed to, obviously it's a learning and you can learn how to do that, but
yeah,
because I always wanted to see, I learned because I looked up psychedelic mushrooms, how to find them. And from what I understand, you can take a piece of paper and you could put it on the paper, and if it leaves like a purple stain, supposedly that makes it psychedelic, and then you dry those out. I haven't tried it yet. That's one thing. But I want to get into the whole morel mushroom hunting, and and I'm sure in Montana I'll have more opportunities to do stuff like that. Yeah. So how do you know the difference? Because I know some could be pretty toxic for you, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah, there are definitely some that like you've got to be careful of. I tend to go for the mushrooms that like you can't possibly mix them with something else. Like, there's the typical like chanterelle mushroom that it sticks out pretty easily. The turkey tail mushrooms, actually, people have asked me about those too. There are lookalike turkey tail mushrooms, but they're not known to be toxic. So even if you were to pick the wrong ones, like you'd be okay. But I tend to go for those type of mushrooms, the ones that are like, you can't possibly mess this up kind of thing. My husband's really into pine mushrooms, which are a little bit, for me, harder to identify. Like he's really good at that. But I just kind of go off of Joe. I Googled a lot of them too. There's like little books you can get on Amazon too, actually. If you search up, I forget what it's called, but you can just basically search in like mushroom identifying, and like for your area too, because like in different areas all over the world, there's different species and stuff that grow. So like there's actually like a BC mushroom book that you can like buy, or I'm sure there's one for like Montana or something like that too.
Oh, I'm sure
that they have. But it's a lot of researching for sure. Because you don't want to mess that up, because there's definitely some mushrooms, especially even out here, the lookalikes that like if you eat them, it's basically like a death sentence. You go to the hospital and they're like there's no antidote, there's no nothing for it, so you're just kind of like but yeah, I as a general rule, I stick to the really, really easy ones to pick.
So you hunt animals and you hunt mushrooms. Is there any other edible type plants that you like? Is most of what you eat now, is it more from the organic wild game side and organic produce and stuff like that? Is that more?
I try to. Eating organic, like fully organic, is extremely difficult, especially on your wallet, mostly on your wallet. It's, it can be extremely expensive.
Isn't that weird that they can spray all these things with chemicals. You don't even have to know what chemicals they spray on them. But in order to get, I don't know how it's in Canada, but in order to get certified USDA organic, they have to file all this paperwork and prove all this stuff. Meanwhile, they can spray these huge swaths with chemicals and put them in the market, and you don't even know. They don't have to put what chemicals are on there, but someone has to prove that they didn't use chemicals.
It boggles my mind. It honestly does. Like the amount people have to spend just to like live their best life and live healthy. Like, how does that cost more? Like, I don't understand, but in our world, it does. And it's something that we have to deal with as a rule. So it actually, there's a really good website. It's called the Environmental Working Group, EWG.com. And I reference that website quite a bit. They have a lot of information on like, pesticides and, eating organic and all that kind of stuff. So they've done studies actually that basically show you which fruits, which vegetables, which foods have the highest or were tested for the highest amount of pesticides. So there's like a list of 12 different foods, and they say these foods, they have the highest amount of pesticides that are, were found in them. You should eat these foods, these 12 foods, at least organic, because these are the worst foods that have the highest amount of pesticides. And then they have another list that's like a cleaner list. So like these foods have like very, very little amount of pesticides in them. These ones are okay if you buy like conventional or like regular. So I actually like to stick to that list because, you can't be perfect 100% of the time. And, you got to do what you can afford as well. And for me, it's just not, our family, it's not feasible to do like 100% organic. So we just bought a house actually, and we have a huge backyard. We're going to grow a big garden this year. So I'm excited for that because that's something we've really wanted to. We were living in a townhouse before, and we had like a little outdoor, just like standing garden. But, now we have the opportunity, which we're lucky and a lot of people don't, to grow our own produce too. So I'm excited for that this year actually as well.
I love the garden too. The house I'm here in Texas, I just built a garden in the backyard. I put soil and tilled the soil and made, because it's something about, I've always liked it. Sorry. And my dog is like,
I sent my dog outside because I knew she was going to bug me.
Well, he's usually not too bad. Right now he's like biting at me and, hey, stop.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's so key. He loves being loved. He loves attention.
Oh.
So, and then he'll just walk away like he did right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love, ever since I was a kid, something fascinating about putting a seed in the ground, and it just produced, like when you wait a couple months and then you got tomatoes and beets and all these. I love all this stuff. I know that when you talk about the foods, most pesticide, apples, right? Apples are one of the big ones.
Apples
aren't strawberries?
Strawberries are high on that list too. Yep. Spinach is
so messed
too. I know. Yeah. So those are the things that I really try to stick to, buying organic, and then, go from there, I would say.
What's your favorite game animal to hunt? What animals have you hunted? Have you done moose or elk or anything like that? Or
no, not yet. That would be a pretty big dream for me. But right now, so far I've done big game animals like black bear.
Nice.
Black bear, deer, and just like grouse and things like that. But elk would be like a dream hunt for me. My husband goes on an elk hunt, a couple elk hunts every year. And I'm like, oh, I really would love to go. It's like a 2-week, pretty long, extensive trip. But I feel like I'm not like physically and mentally prepared. Like they go pretty hard out there. And I know the amount of work that they put in, and, they put in a lot of miles, and they're hiking up and down, and they don't care if you're tired or if you're lagging behind. Like they don't care. Like you got to keep up, kind of thing. So I feel like that's something that I have to like prepare for more physically, I would say, and mentally too. I mean, like it's, you gotta be prepared when you go out there for everything. And I want to be more experienced before I go and do that. But I would love the opportunity to go on a trip with them. As a woman too, you feel like, because I do really want to, get more into it. I do feel like it's a little more difficult. You know, the guys, they have their trips and they go on their trips. You don't want to be the only girl going out with all the guys cramping their style, you know? So there's that.
I think you would. I think times, I don't know. It's like, since I've been doing this podcast and doing research, and I'm trying to get like you more women who hunt, because there's a lot of guys, we all know their stories, and women are becoming more involved in the outdoors, and I think it's great. I mean, there's some women who can hang, and there's women who can, so I don't think, you know, I understand your apprehension stuff, and it's physically, the mental part is the worst, because when you're out there and you're not hearing any elk and you're like, and you know they're there, that's the worst part. You know they're there, and you just like, you wake up, get up 3:30 in the morning, and you're all psyched, and then nothing, and then it's day after day, and you're like, but then when you finally do hear one and you call them in, it's just calling in, having that, it's to hear, you know, you hear those bugles on television and stuff, and then all of a sudden you got one right on top of you. You'll enjoy that. Let me tell you, you're gonna, when you do go elk hunting, you're gonna enjoy that. I used to love turkey hunting. That was my thing.
Oh, did you go turkey hunting this weekend?
Well, yeah. I'm great at calling in hens right now. Oh my God! Every day I go out, I've called in. I went out yesterday. I called in a hen. I'm just like, I've got gobblers around me, but they've got. See, it's weird here in Texas. Like where I hunt right behind these houses, and everyone here has feeders.
Oh yeah.
Bird, he literally roosts right in these people's backyard, and he'll fly down into the road, and he'll come back, and he's got like 50 hens plus some other stragglers, and he'll just hang around the neighborhood. But there's other gobblers, and I'll go after them, and I don't know, this year's just real weird. Now it's going to get, it's supposed to be 100 degrees tomorrow.
Wow. What?
I usually hunt here in Texas. Yeah, it's April, and it's going to be almost 100. And I hunt in shorts and shorts and tank top most of the time, because I'm walking around, and it's just, you know, it's ridiculously hot, but I love turkey hunting, and then I went elk hunting. Yeah. And now it's like, it's weird. If you do it, you're going to be addicted. All of a sudden you find yourself thinking about elk all the time. And you hear about guys, it's like, it's addicting. And there's other guys I know that just like, it's really weird. You can't stop thinking about elk hunting.
Wow.
You like it.
Joe and I watched that series. Oh my gosh. And I can't believe I forget the name of it right now. And I was obsessed with it. The one on YouTube.
Elk?
No.
With Corey Jacobson?
No, this is going to really bother me that I forgot this now. Bunch of guys, they went on like a crazy elk hunt.
Oh, like, the born and raised guys?
Born and raised. Oh my God. How did I forget their name? We were obsessed with watching that show. And like every night I came home from work, I'm like, we're watching Born and Raised. Like this is, and I would just sit there like on the, you know, the edge of my seat, like, I can't believe this is so cool. So if I have that experience, just watching it on TV, I feel like, it would be that much more addicting in person for sure.
Oh, so you've got 3 seasons of Destination Elk with Corey Jacobson. You haven't seen.
I can't
wait. Corey's like a 8-time world champion elk caller and stuff, but he's a really good bow hunter too. And the thing I like about him is he only hunts public land. He doesn't hunt. He doesn't go on guide. He does it all himself, and he's got his buddies and stuff. And he said he's going to come on my podcast. I sent him a message, so we'll see. Nice. But he's got a thing called Destination Elk. Cool. He runs the elk101.com website. Yeah. But anyways, so he's got this. They just finished season 3, so you haven't even seen that yet. Oh my God,
dangerous.
He's great because he's fun, but he's a really good caller. And he'll break down after stuff, and he'll give tips on, you know, what happened here, and you know, they fix it. Yeah, so you haven't even seen Corey Jacobson yet. Oh boy, you're gonna be in.
I'm in for it today. That's awesome. That's something I want to get into actually, is bow hunting. That's like kind of my next.
Oh, you haven't done that yet? Okay.
Oh yeah, no, just rifle, but that is definitely something to get into for sure.
I like archery. That's strictly what I do, is because it's up close and personal. You know, you're within yards sometimes of an animal.
So
and
crazy.
you can smell them. That's when you know, like when you
That's
smell
right.
them. So how about your bear hunt? Have you gotten a bear?
Yeah, two.
Oh,
Two.
nice.
Yeah, so far. Yeah. And then Bear just opened again on April 1st. So we're excited to get out and do that again. Bears are
How
like,
do how do you like the taste of bear?
actually was extremely surprised how much I loved bear.
That's what I hear. I haven't had
Yeah.
it yet, but
Oh man.
everyone, like so many people say
Yeah.
bear, it tastes so good.
Yeah.
Sausage and yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the meat we did sausage, but we yeah, I think it depends too, like where you're hunting them. Like, black bears are like kind of raccoons here. So at first I was kind of like, ew, like I don't want to hunt a black bear. They just eat garbage and they run around the streets. I'm like, that's not kind of, the animal that I want to go for. But when you drive, far into the backcountry and those bears have only been eating the vegetation and the blueberries and all that kind of stuff, like it makes a complete difference, obviously. And yeah, I love bear. We have like bear shanks and like steaks, and you gotta cook it right though. Like it can get pretty tough sometimes. So I find like if it's not in like sausage or slow cooking it or something like that, it can get pretty tough, but the taste is still there. So like, yeah, I don't really care. But yeah, it's so good. So good.
Do you mainly just hunt in British Columbia, or do you travel other places in Canada? Uh-oh. Screen froze.
Oh, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, okay. There you are. Huh. Yeah,
Perfect.
I figured I lost you a little bit and I was just here waiting.
You did. I think we
Do you just mainly hunt British Columbia, or do you hunt other spots in Canada?
Yep, British Columbia right now. When I first started hunting with my husband, we were out in Ontario for the first year and a half. So I hunted a little bit out there, but I wouldn't really call it hunting. I mean, we were like, we never came across an animal ever. We just sat in a tree stand for like, 15 hours in the day and freezing cold. That was pretty much it. I think I saw a deer at like 200 yards one time, but you could only shoot at the time, it was that period where you could only use shotgun. And I was like, okay, well, this is just a lost cause, but it was just, it was still a good experience. I mean, I know hunting in Ontario can be fun. It's just different in BC. Like in BC, you're not sitting in a tree stand or anything like that. You're like out walking around, and which I loved. Like before I was like, oh, I don't know if I could sit in a tree stand all day and do that. And I know some people they do, and that's fine. But I much more enjoy like walking around part and just like
Hunting.
Actually hunting. Yeah, exactly. Like doing that.
Yeah.
So I much more enjoy it out here. But yeah,
I'm the same way. When I grew up in New York, that's all we really had was deer and turkeys. Yeah. And I was the same way. I'd sit in a tree stand and it'd be late October, early November. It's like, fuck me. I'm freezing my ass up here. I'm sitting up here all day and I'm not seeing anything. And it's not. And And sitting to me isn't hunting. You're waiting, but you're not hunting. And that's what I've learned to enjoy. I think if you pick up archery, I think you really, because then you do the spot and stalks, and you can do that with a gun, but that's when you can get up real close to, and test your hunting skills by stalking an animal.
I think that's what scares me the most is I'm like, oh, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am, but no, it's a scary thought. Like, being that close to like a bear or, whatever you're going for, like.
If it's a predator, that's a different story. Like, because I've heard, I had a guy on, I think it was Brian, and he was talking about bear hunting. I think he said he shot the bear and it came charging at him, but that'd be a little touchy there. Does your husband bow hunt?
Yes, he does. Yeah.
So what's stopping you from getting a bow?
I know. You know what? Actually, we were just talking about it. He's because he's got a show on Wild TV with Steve Eklund. It's called.
Your husband does?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, cool.
You'd be interested to talk to him too. He knows a lot more than I do. But it's called The Edge on Wild TV.
Edge on what?
He Edge on Wild TV, Wild
Wild
Television.
TV.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that a internet channel or is it actual TV channel?
No, it's a TV channel. Yeah, it's Canadian
Okay.
TV channel, but they do a
Okay.
lot of US stuff and yeah. So he does that. So he's like, you know, gone on some really cool trips in the last couple. He's just started doing that in the last year and a half or 2 years or so. So yeah, he's been living his lifelong dream doing that for sure.
I think that's every guy's dream to be
Yeah.
just live hunt and stuff. Does he know Greg McHale up in Yukon?
You know what? He might. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on
might
yours.
love him. Yeah,
He's a
for
good
sure.
dude. He's all over like sheep and moose. I think he just got a moose
Oh
up
yeah.
in somewhere there. But yeah, he's got a TV show on Carbon TV and stuff. Oh, speaking of, because another person, you know Jen Shears, right?
Yeah, I love her.
How do you know her? Because you guys are on the opposite sides of Canada. Yeah. Like one's in the west, one's in the east. And she does a lot of hunting. She's all over Canada.
Oh my god, she's my girl crush. I love Jen so much. I look up to her a lot. She's done a lot in like the hunting industry and, you know, advocating for conservation and all that kind of stuff too. And, yeah, she's epic. She's on Wild TV too.
I really enjoyed the interview. I was very not surprised. I just didn't know her background, and then once we got talking and stuff, yeah, she's really into, you know, her whole background, education, and her growing up. And she's telling me her grandmother's like 90 years old and just shot a moose. And I'm like,
I saw that, yeah.
And she's saying that she's lived off all she's ever eaten was wild game. She's never eaten processed food and stuff. And 90 years old, still hunting. That's the life I want to live.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, Jen, we honestly met just through Instagram. Just an online.
You haven't met her yet.
No, I haven't met her. I would love to meet her. Every time I see her doing something on there, I'm just like, oh my god, we would have so much fun together. You know, you can just tell even just from, you know, watching someone or, you know, seeing their story, or like, oh wow, that's someone I could definitely hang with. She's just she seems awesome. Awesome.
I love how she does. She's the same way, is involved, and I liked her little New Year's. Have you seen her New Year's Eve spread where she had all the game animals
and like with pictures? Yeah.
I thought that was so cool to say this is where, because, you know, we were talking about going to the grocery store. There's no pictures of the animals. There could be all freaking from all over the country. Just, you know, there's a steak and you don't know, you don't even think about it. You don't even think where that came from. Exactly. And now you get to, I like that showing, okay, this is where this is what you're seeing. And some people, she said, got freaked out, which is understandable.
Yeah.
But to know where your food comes from. Yeah. And it's cliche now because a lot of people say it, but it's so
couldn't be more true, right?
Yeah.
And
when we're talking about how they spray the chemicals and stuff, to know that you grew that stuff or you got that in it, just it's to know where your food comes from and not have to, like, I don't know. I don't like the disconnect. A lot of people are, you know, when they're against hunting, and it's just like, but you have zero problems going to the grocery store though, and picking up a package of chicken and stuff and not even thinking about it yet. You're going to judge
and then judge
us for doing, And like you said, it gave you more respect for the animal. And then that too, they're like, what? You don't understand. You see these animals and you just don't want to kill them them, you know?
And when I started getting into holistic nutrition and I started posting more about it, at first I was extremely nervous because in the world of like holistic nutrition, especially in school, they like shove down your throat veganism and like, you know, you should not eat meat.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. Like big time. It's like, you know, plant-based is the healthiest. It's the way to go. And like, but they're missing the part about like, you know, yes, obviously like conventional, like meat and stuff from the grocery store, like, yeah, that is extremely unhealthy for you, like the way that the animals were raised and what they're fed and all that kind of stuff. But like, there's no mention of like wild game or like wild meat, you know, as an alternative, obviously, to, you know, grocery store meat. It's just like, oh no, you can't eat grocery store meat, so you just got to go vegan. Like, you know, go vegan or die, basically, is like what they kind of put out there, and I'm shocked. I'm like sitting there like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I eat meat every single day. Like, how can I become a holistic nutritionist, but still like live this like hunter, gather kind of like lifestyle? And as I started putting my like hunting stuff out there, and more like holistic nutritionists started following me, and I started talking about my hunting, I was actually kind of shocked at,
probably made sense then.
It makes sense. And like, to me, it made sense anyways. I didn't know if it would make sense to anyone else, but I was like, okay, either people are going to get it or they're going to think this is like the craziest chick on the planet. But a lot of people were like super respectful and, understanding. They're like, wow, I think that is so cool that you hunt your own meat. Like, that's awesome. I wish I could do that. I had like tons of people messaging me about that. So I was shocked, because like in that world there is more like vegans and stuff, and like people would start following me, then they'd unfollow me as soon as I would post something about hunting. And I'm like, okay, like, that's just part of the process. Like I didn't care, but I try to put like as much respectful stuff out there as I can about hunting. Like, I think that's the other part of it too, is like, if you just post like grip and grin photos all the time, like, yeah, you're gonna get like you're gonna get knocked on a for sure. So I think, as hunters, we kind of have that like responsibility to like educate non-hunters too, and show them, okay, like how Jen does, like she has the meat out on the platter, and she's got the photos, and like this is how it started, and like this is what that process is doing for me. It's not about going out and just like shooting an animal. Like, this is feeding my family, and this is like how this is our lifestyle. Like, I think that's important to show, like, not just the grip and grin photos, because I think those are important too. Like, I think as hunters, like, that's our joy. That's the goal, right? And that's like, if you, the same thing with any other, something else that you enjoy, you do as your lifestyle, like you post photos of it, right? And that's just, that's what it is. And, but I think showing the whole process is really important, because I think that's where the disconnect comes. Like, if people just see your grip and grin bloody photos, they're just going to think, oh, you're just a slaughterer, you just slaughter animals all the time. But like, oh no, you actually eat the meat. Oh, okay. Like, then they kind of get it more, but
that's what some people don't. That's what they think, you just kill them. And no, there's a lot more to it than that. And it's funny you mentioned that too, the whole grip and grin thing. And I remember watching one of the Born and Raised, and he before they showed the animal, he said, we're going to clean up the blood, because it's respectful, and just because there was a, I'm not gonna say her name, but she got a turkey maybe 1 or 2 weeks ago or something, and it was the way she literally was throwing the turkey around, like she was dancing around and stuff, and then she brings it, she swings it, and I'm just sitting there going, and I don't leave. I'm not going to engage in the comment thing, and I'm trying not to be judgmental, but that just is a complete. I don't know. I thought it was very disrespectful to the animal to show it on video, and you're sitting there literally grabbing it by the neck, and she was flinging it around like she was chopping wood. That's the way she came across. And I was, and she's got a huge following, and she's all into guns, and people love her. And I'm just like, I'm sorry. This is disgusting what you're doing. And I'm a hunter, and just the way she did to that turkey. Yeah, I wasn't.
Yeah,
and she, people are like, awesome, congrats, and it's just like,
oh no. That's what we're trying to like backtrack from, right? It's like the views of that kind of, because those are the things that people focus on, right? Like,
exactly.
They see that one video and then like, oh, all hunters are like this. Everyone does that, and it's just not true. But
have you like, because you said they push, and veganism has its own place. I got a friend.
Yeah. Oh no, nothing against it. Yeah.
She does it because she's got a history of cancer in her family.
Yeah.
So for her, that's why she does it. She's jacked. You should see this girl. She is jacked.
Yeah.
She's all playing. She's a dancer and stuff. She's a good friend of mine and stuff. She's gonna come on. But anyways, and she's not like, she doesn't oppose her views. No, you kill animals. She's fine with it. Yeah. The ones that, I saw, you mentioned CrossFit. I still have the picture. It says, if a vegan does CrossFit, which should they tell you about first? Because People
Are
do
they?
CrossFit
Yeah.
want to tell you to do CrossFit, or people someone who's a vegan wants to tell
Yeah.
you. So what are they going to tell you about first? So, but
That's
do
good.
you when you in your classes and stuff, and you say they really push the whole plant based? Do you speak up? Do you say, listen? Do you mention anything about hunting, or
So I do all
or is it?
my school's all online.
Oh,
So
okay,
I
okay,
wasn't really in a classroom setting, but I would say like my setting would have been like my Instagram following, because like that's where where everyone kind of congregates now, and you have the video and all that kind of stuff too, stories. And so I feel like that was kind of like my classroom, because as I was learning, I was posting about stuff and then also posting about hunting. So the people following me were like, oh, they were also holistic nutritionists, and they had their views about like meat and all that kind of stuff. And so that's how I kind of got conversations going. And I gotta say, like, I think I've only ever had like one or two like bad interactions about like, people coming at me like, oh my God, this is just, I can't believe this. But most of them have been like pretty good. And I think a part of it is because like, I think I show the whole, like, again, like I said, I show the whole process. I'm honestly kind of scared, because I would love to post a photo of like me and my bear from like last season. Like I look at those
yeah.
photos and it just
You still
breaks me so
should.
much. I'm going to, for sure. I just like want to, got to figure out a way to do it in a way that I can like
Because
present
people
it.
come at you because it's a bear and stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh, I can't believe we shot."
Yeah. And even some hunters are like, oh, you hunt bear? Like how can you hunt bear? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like if I'm going to hunt meat, like I don't care what animal it is. If I'm going to eat it, like that's just my
Exactly.
view. That's my
You're not
view.
wasting it.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm not just shooting it to shoot it, like I'm actually eating the bear. So yeah.
It really surprised me that because holistic, you think about all natural.
Mhm.
You surprised me that you get that there was people really pushing which is again fine, the plant based, but
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about wild game. I mean, if you want to talk about organic grass fed, that's about as real as you're gonna get. I
Real
don't
as you.
understand how that could be included in a holistic lifestyle.
Yeah. And I know a lot of vegans who went vegan, not, obviously for animal reasons, like they don't like the fact that how the animals are treated and what's in it, and for health reasons too. And I totally get that. And for people who can't hunt, and who don't have access to wild game meat, like I feel like now, knowing what I know, if I couldn't hunt or didn't hunt, I feel like I might go vegan, because like I don't want to put that crap in my body. Like,
Yeah.
so what are your options? Like if you don't have access to hunting or wild game, like what do what else can you do? And I
Yeah.
feel like that might even be a smart decision for people who don't have. That's why people like have messaged me like, I'm so jealous that you can do that, or that you have access to that, because like I wish I could. And a friend of ours, he's a vegetarian. He still eats fish and eggs, but he went that route for health reasons, as well, quite a few years ago now. And he's known Joe like for a very long time, and knows he's always been into hunting and stuff like that, and he never really understood it. And he's big into photography and videography and stuff. And Joe actually needed a photographer for one of their hunt trips, and he asked him, he's like, hey, last minute we need someone to film this hunt, like are you available? And he, like, his one friend who like is vegan vegetarian, he's like, okay, yeah. He didn't know how to feel about it. He's like, I don't know, I don't know if I can do it, but we'll think about it. So he ended up going, and he went on the elk trip that my husband went on, and he came back like a different person. He is so obsessed with hunting. He's like going and getting his hunting license, but he's like, I have no intention of like eating the meat. He's like, I still want to be vegetarian, vegan, but I have so much respect for like what you guys do. Like I've never understood it before. And like him going on that trip and like seeing, how hard they work to get that one animal. And, he said just the whole process is like so amazing. And like now he wants to go hunting with Joe, and every time he goes, but he just wants to be there, like physically be there, like for like the mental aspect, for the physical aspect, for like, the whole the whole experience. Like he's not a hunter at all, and he will never hunt an animal, but he just wants to be there because he is like learning how amazing this process is, and he gets it. And now he's totally obsessed, which is so cool. Because like, when do you ever hear about, like, you know, a vegan or vegetarian like getting into hunting, or like just wanting to be there? And it was so cool.
And he was disconnected from the whole thing until he was open-minded enough.
Yeah.
And now he can form an opinion because he actually did it. And he's like, wow, this is more than I really thought it was going to be. And I kind of like it. And, but it, you know, a lot of them, and I don't want to generalize, but a lot of people are so disconnected from the whole process, and they form opinions and without ever experience it. And all of us are guilty. It doesn't have to be hunting. I'm always believe I can't have an opinion until I try it. May not like it, but if I try it, then I can actually say yes or no. And that's cool that guy, you know, he never tried it and he decided to, and he's like, wow, I actually like this. You know? Yeah. So but before that, he was that hell disconnect like we talk about. And now he understands that it's not just the kill. There's a whole grind that goes into, hopefully, you know, that mental and physical aspect of it. That's very cool. My hat's off to that guy.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was super cool. But yeah, I feel like even before like I got into hunting, when I found out Joe and I first started dating, and I found out he was a hunter, I like, people ask me, they're like, what did you think about him? Like when you first met him and you found out that he was a hunter? And I'm like, honestly, I don't really remember. Like, I feel like I was just kind of like, oh, that's really cool. I've never known anyone who's hunted before. I've never met a hunter. I've never, you know, tried wild game or anything like that. But I was like I felt like I was open-minded enough to be like, oh, that's cool. Like, what's that about? And then, you know, learning more about it, I got really into it. But yeah, I feel like I never had any, like, you know, you have images in your head of like what hunting is, and that's just from like growing up in Ontario. Like I never grew up around hunters. I never grew up around anything like that. So in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, they go out and they shoot animals, like I guess, like, but yeah, I never really had like a bad image about hunters before. And I think that's just because I grew up in a big city, and I didn't know about any of that kind of stuff. So
well, again, you were open-minded enough, like you said, to give it a shot before you found out you liked it. And now look at you. You're all involved. It's part of your life and your healthy lifestyle. What's what kind of hunts you got going on this year? Do you have anything planned?
Well, definitely bear hunting this spring season for sure. And then I really want to go on like a big, like a week long kind of as my first kind of like overnight hunting trip. Cause like I haven't been on like super long trips, like day trips and, you know, weekend trips and stuff, but I want to do like the whole thing. Like I want to be in a tent and camping for a week, and, you know, waking up super early morning and doing that. So I think in like, hopefully September, October, November, we'll do something like that for sure. Cool. That's what I want to for deer. Yeah. I've been skunked with deer the last like year and a bit. So I've only got my one deer, and last year, oh my God, this past season, we hunted. My poor husband, he took me out every single weekend, every spare moment he had. We were out there, and I feel like, you know, we put in so much work, and that's part of it too, right? Like people like Joe said, like when I got my first deer, like my first time going hunting, he was like, Kristin, like, you know, he's like, you have to know, like, this is not something that comes this easy to everybody. He's like, people who have hunted their whole lives will go years without shooting a deer or shooting anything, like getting anything. So like, He really instilled in me, like, you know, how lucky we are to like be successful at times, for sure, when people go years without getting anything. So when I got my first year, I was like, oh, this is great. And then the next
easy.
Like, oh no, it's easy, no big deal. And then you quickly find out that it's not that easy, for sure. But I was really upset this past season. I felt like I put in, you know, a lot of miles hiking, early mornings, like all that kind of thing, and it didn't happen. But you know, that's part of it too.
Are you going to be on any of his TV shows? You're going to go on any hunts with him on the shows?
Yeah, actually, I think he wants to set something up for me for sure. I think it's just a matter of, it's hard to, I guess it might be easier now with COVID if they can't travel enough. Maybe I'll sneak in there somewhere, but I don't know if he's going to want me on camera. Like I'm going to be the like goofy one. He's going to just be like,
I think it'll be cool to see, like, because it's something new for you, and I think it'd be very cool if you did with a bow. That's just my personal
I
opinion. I
know.
think we need to
I
get you
gotta
the archery range.
I got to start working my upper body out. Joe's always like, if you want to bow hunt, you got to start working out your upper body. I'm like, okay.
Oh, come on, you're an athlete, and plus the bows have like 80% let off. You'll be like right here, and it just draws right back.
And then, yeah,
you'll build up that strength too by shooting and stuff.
practicing.
Yeah, and you'll enjoy it. I'm telling you, once you get something really close, you'll be like, wow. When you can hear them breathing or smell them, you're like, this is pretty cool.
That's
don't
awesome.
fuck it up. You know,
No,
that's when you're like, oh, don't mess it up.
Don't mess up. Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
man.
Well, listen, Kristin, thank you for coming on. It was cool learning about your whole story and your experiences hunting and everything. I think it's very cool that you were to tried it, and I think it's very cool that guy you spoke of that
Yeah.
you know he gave it a try, and that's the way people should be. Don't form an opinion until you try it, and maybe you'll like it.
Don't knock it.
Hey,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so where can everyone give all your stuff where people can find you to follow you?
Yep, I've got pretty much my Instagram account. It's Hunting Holistic. And then I've got a website as well where I just kind of post like my like recipes, and I have a couple of my hunting stories. I have a bear hunt that I did. I did a little post about that as well on there. So you can, same thing, www.huntingholistic.com. And you can go check out some recipes and just cool hunting stories and stuff like that too. Yeah.
Yeah, and at Hunting Holistic on Instagram too.
At
right?
Hunting Holistic, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
before you go too, so this turkey tail tea, what is it?
Yeah.
Does this have caffeine in it, or like does it, or no? It's just a tea.
No, there's no caffeine in it, but turkey tail mushrooms are really good for your immune system. So yeah, you can have them multiple ways. You can eat them and stuff as well, but steeping it just in like a regular pot. And actually a couple of friends have messaged me like, are these the turkey tail mushrooms you're talking about? Sending me photos. I'm like, yeah, that's them. It's pretty cool. But yeah, you steep them, and then it's like not the greatest tasting, but I add a little bit of honey or something like that, or I mix it with another type of tea. I'll do like peppermint and a little bit of that as well. And just sip that in the morning, and I keep it in like a nice little, I got to dry them out too. So dry them out on a rack and then put them in a nice glass jar or something. I like to keep them in the fridge. Apparently you don't have to after they've been dried out, but I like to just in case too. But yeah, really good for gut health and your immune system. And yeah, a lot of different mushrooms have so many different.
Yeah, I like you post good information. So
yeah,
people
thanks.
who have problems and stuff. Yeah. Well, thank you again for coming on. It was cool to have you on. Like I said, it was a cool story and stuff. Good luck bear hunting. I hope you get a bow. I hope you learn how to call elk and stuff. And remember, follow Destination Elk, Corey Jacobson. You got three more seasons. Now he's followed the born and raised guys. Check out Corey. You'll love it.
Okay.
Hey, listen, Kristin.
Thank you.
Have a great day. Thank you for coming on. Oh, and hey, send me is your husband, is he on Instagram?
Yes. Yeah. I'll send you.
Maybe I'll talk to him. Maybe we can get him on here.
Oh yeah, you have to. You'll enjoy talking to him too. Thank you so much for having me. I had so much fun.
Cool. Thank you, Kristin. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.